animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the African bush after the storm. This is what summer looks like all the way from South Africa. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome everyone. We are out and about again all the way from South Africa, from Djuma Game Reserve. My name is Ali over here, and on camera with me I've got Ferg today. And we are just trying to explore the wilderness after a very rainy morning. So it is always quite fun just going out and about. A lot of tracks on the road. Everything seems like it's been washed clean, and then we're just gonna enjoy seeing what's out there. For now, it seems like it's slightly warmer, which is a good indicator animals might just start moving around. During the course of the drive, if you guys have any comments or any questions for us, please, you can get a hold of us by using the hashtag SafariLive via Twitter, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Right, I think we might have even gotten lost somewhere around here this morning. We are gonna carry on looking for more time. Let's cross over to Byron, street cameraman.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Byron, and with me on camera this afternoon is James. Hello, James.
Hello.
Now, we've just got started. We are also going to be looking for a leopard this afternoon. We got an update that Thandi might be in the area, so we're going to go and see if we can find her. But in the meantime, we have got some beautiful hornbills just off to my right. And they're perched up in the tree. And it sounds like a young one that is on the left. There goes the adult. And there goes the youngster. It's chirping quite a bit, and they often do that when they want food from the adult. The adult will go and try and get food for the youngster and then feed the youngster, and they make a raucous sound, chattering. Off they go. That's a thing with birds. They don't sit for very long, so they often fly off, and it's difficult to keep up with them. Am I right, James?
You are so right, Byron. I just have to test something quickly.
All right. Test away. That's the...
Yeah, that's not good, is it?
Don't think so. We'll fix it shortly.
Let's just magnify.
All right. Now, as I was saying earlier, we are not sure exactly what we are going to be finding this afternoon, because this weather, this overcast weather and very cool weather that we're having, could result in the animals going and looking for shelter, staying in the thickets. But it could also mean that perhaps the predators are a bit more active and moving around. So we'll see. It will be interesting to see. We are going to try and find as much as possible. The other thing is that because of all that rain, it has compacted the soil slightly, but if we do see any clear tracks, we'll know that they are fresh, because they would after the rain. So from some time today, which should make it a bit easier to hopefully find some of these animals. Don't forget, you can chat to us. We are live. Send us your questions and comments. Hashtag Safari Live. We always enjoy hearing from you, and we enjoy the questions. Hope all of you have had a good start to the weekend so far. It's a long weekend in South Africa. So everybody had Friday off. So a lot of people traveling, a lot of people actually going to the bush, in fact. This is a great time of year for people to go on safari, so a lot of South Africans go up into the Kruger National Park or go all over for the long weekend. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's this time of year. April is quite a funny month. If you take 2 or 3 days leave, you can almost end up with about 10 days off work, which is quite interesting because of all these public holidays. Just going through a little dip. And so that is okay, I don't know about that. April the giraffe giving birth. Where was that, Rebecca? I've not heard of that. James, have you heard of that? No. We're approaching Twin Dams. Let's see if there's any activity around here. Might be a hippopotamus. Wonder if that hippo is still here. Oh, right. Okay, so April the giraffe is a giraffe that's in the New York Zoo, and it just gave birth today or yesterday. That's great news. Congratulations, April the giraffe. Oh, she's giving birth right now. Wow, okay. So it's all happening in New York, apparently. I just have stopped on the dam just to scout the area a little bit. Let's have a look and see what we can find, if there is anything around here. Now, Shongile and Hosanna, those 2 young leopard cubs, do hang around here. What have we got there? Oh, we've got a white-faced duck stretching its legs. Now, that's interesting behavior. Look how that duck is standing on one leg. It's tucking its head in and tucking the other leg in. Now, the reason they do that is to conserve heat. So they'll stand on one leg so they don't lose a lot of heat. And that's exactly what that duck is doing, that white-faced duck. Very clever way of conserving its warmth. And there is the hippo still in the dam. This is a perfect spot for this hippo. It's probably been pushed out by a dominant hippo elsewhere. So there's no competition here for it. The dam is definitely deep enough for it. And there's plenty of grass in this area for it to feed on in the evenings. So this is a great area for it. Also, with this cool weather that we're having at the moment, I doubt we're going to be seeing too many animals going down to drink, as we usually do in the afternoons. When it's not so hot, there's not much need for the animals to drink and cool down around the water, animals like the hippo. And you can see those beautiful clouds at the moment. It is still very, very cloudy and overcast. But I must admit, I love this weather. I enjoy it. I enjoy the cool and the overcast. It's just something different. It's so nice to have different weather as opposed to that constant heat. Now, I'm going to stick around here for a few minutes and scan this area carefully. Let's head back to Ali and find out how her search for a leopard is going. Welcome back, everyone. So unfortunately, Ali is just going through a bit of a dodgy signal area. Don't worry, we're still here. I am looking around, I am scouting and trying to see if we can't spot something interesting around this area. It's very peaceful at the moment. A few birds calling in the distance. I don't think you'd be able to hear them. You can just hear 1 or 2 turtle doves. This hippo is watching us very, very closely. Have a look at that. Tannis, you asked if I know of any animals that play in the water at night. So, Tannis, I don't. Now, however, I do know there are certain species of animals which do go and drink in the evenings, especially in certain areas. So some of the predators would go down to the water holes and drink at night. Lions and leopards, they are fairly active at night, mostly active at night, in fact. Not as much during the day, but they will go to the water holes and drink at night. Another species of animal which do go and drink regularly in the evenings are rhino, in fact. In parts of Africa, black and white rhino have known to frequent water holes regularly in the evenings. They'll go and drink, and even some of the black rhino that are meant to be solitary actually interact quite a lot at water holes in the evenings. And there's a blacksmith lapwing and that white-faced duck. I'm trying to think what else would go and splash around in the water in the evenings. Actually, that's about it that I know of, or that I can think of. And you know, the hippo all leave the water holes at night. They'll go off and feed for a number of hours, and then return back to the water at some point during the evening or early morning. Probably get some of the bird species coming down, like the Nat.Geos and the bronze-wing coursers and the water thickneys. Water thickneys are nocturnal, so they'll probably be quite active around the water hole at night, trying to catch little insects that they will feed on. Again, that white-faced duck just balancing perfectly there. I'm not sure, I must be honest. The hippo's skin, I've never seen a wrinkly hippo, so I don't know if they get wrinkly like you get if you stay in the bath too long. But they do have sensitive skin. Oh, watch! Oh, I thought it's going to give us a nice yawn. Let's see, perhaps it still does. But did you see those teeth briefly? Very, very sharp tusks that the hippo has. There we go. Come on, yawn for us. Oh. So they have got sensitive skin, and when I mean sensitive skin, they are sensitive to extreme heat or sunlight. They don't like to be out of the water for very long if it is very, very hot. And they will, in winter though, they will bask on the banks to warm up because it is so much cold and the water is colder. But during the summer, they'll stay in the water, and one of the main reasons is because they have got sensitive skin. But I don't think they go wrinkly. Let's see, what is he going to yawn? Come on. There we go. Oh, wonderful. Nicholas, the fish that we have in this little dam will probably be the catfish, or we often refer to them as barbel. That's a species of catfish that we get in these freshwater dams and rivers. And then also there are actually a number of species of tilapia. A few little tilapia that you would find in these little dams. So those would be the main species that we get in these little water holes or dams. In the rivers, you might even get tigerfish. I know there have been tigerfish spotted in the river south of us, in the Sand River, but they don't really occur there. Every now and then you might get some that possibly been washed down from dams in other parts of this area. But not really a big tigerfish area. Just a lot of tilapia and catfish. That's mostly what you would get in these dams. So that's it. Okay, now it sounds like Ali has got her signal back. Let's find out how her search for a leopard is going.
Well, we do have the signal back. It is unfortunate, I would say, that we left that area. We couldn't find any tracks for Impala, which is the leopard that we're looking for, an older male that tends to live around this area, a bit of a good friend. So luckily I managed to get some intel from Tristan, who's been lucky enough to see the movements of Impala on Djuma, and there were a few roads that he suggested he might do, as leopards tend to have preferred routes that they take. So obviously that one didn't work, so I'm hoping that where we're going to carry on next that we'll be able to pick up on something, and if not, well, it's the way it goes with leopards. They are quite elusive creatures and they have a reputation for a reason. But I'm hoping, for an old friend, he will just pop out and be nice about it. But we shall see. Seems like the wind is picking up a little bit. I wonder if we're going to get another big storm this evening. It would be quite interesting if we do. Cedar Point, you'd like to know how much rain does Djuma receive? If I'm not mistaken, this whole area in general tends to get about 200 millimeters of rain per season, and last night we had about 30, which is quite a downpour. So a lot of water came down. It tends to just wash everything away. So normally, if it's not a big storm, we would get anything from maybe 2 to 5 millimeters, anything above 10-20 millimeters, and it means that we've gotten a bit more of what's usually normal, or what we get on average. But I mean, we've had, as I'm sure you all know, a bit of a dry spell this year. Tends to happen around this area. You'll have years that are far better in terms of rain, years that are not as good as rain, and well, we've just been coming from a very, very wet period, roughly 10 years or so, as the experts like to call it. So we'll see what next year brings. It's going to be interesting. But the good thing about this rain is, despite the fact that everything looks very wet and not in the best of humor and very, very cold, it's good, because now we're going to have that extra bit of rain that's going to promote the seed growth in all the grasses and the new leaves in the trees, so providing a lot more food, just for a bit longer for all the animals around this area, which I'm sure they're all going to need, because soon enough we're going to be started to head into winter, and then everything's going to dry and everything's going to become less nutritious for all of them. But for now, this is looking quite summery, still green enough to make everyone happy, whoever one might be around. And it's funny because we've got very, very dark skies on the one side, and then almost a promise of a blue sky somewhere around there. So I think the sun is trying to break through, but I don't know, I think it's gonna have to be a fight for tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow the sun will shine a little bit more. Okay. As you can see, all the animals are still hiding a bit, and it's not easy to see them, which could be promising for Impala. Normally, if the wind picks up, or if there's a nice big storm, because the wind tends to start swirling and going around and camouflaging their noises and taking their smell away, sometimes it's good for leopards, because they'll be able to make a bit more of they'll have more of a chance to make a successful kill. And for an older guy like Impala, well, we can always hope for the best, that he'll be able to have something to eat tonight. Oh, and what would he eat? Hopefully, if he's lucky enough, well, not this particular ones, because now these ones are our friends, so I obviously want them to stay there. Some of those beautiful Impala that are all around here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually tried coming all the way down here and just scout all his opportunities. But as you can see, all the Impala are still a bit cold, so everyone's just hanging around bit of thicker areas where the branches of the trees and just in general the foliage and the vegetation are gonna just make it a bit warmer. Because if you think about it, if you stand out in the open in this wind, you're gonna spend a lot of energy just to try and keep warm, and then you start shivering. And there's a warthog too. 2 warthogs actually. So everybody's together today. Maybe having a bit of a pre-Easter Saturday lunch. Alright, where are you piggies going? So it's often that you'll see animals of different species together. They don't all feed on the same things. So impalas will normally eat the grass and the branches, not the branches, the leaves that you can find on the branches. And warthogs will start eating the roots and the tubers that they can dig up with their very strong noses. So because they don't all feed on the same side, there's really no need to be unfriendly towards one another. And this way, they'll just be able also to keep a lookout for all the animals around. Maybe somebody even like Impala. So if one of them managed to see something or smell something that's not nice, sooner than later they would make an alarm call, and it would be recognized by all the other species of antelope around this area, and would just set everybody on alert and just start looking around, because they would know that there's a predator that's been spotted. Saying that they're all quite relaxed, I doubt that there's a leopard around here, but you never know. They are quite sneaky creatures. I am sure that we drive past them more often than not. Maybe they even play a game. It's like, oh, there's human number 1 and there's number 15, and just make fun of us. I think everybody's going a bit towards more to the bushes. We'll see if we can find some braver ones around. Chin May, welcome to Safari Live. We're happy to have you as a new viewer. Yes, it is in the family of pigs, the warthog, but it's not quite like a domestic pig or a pig that you would get in a farm. They are animals that are adapted to live out here in the wild, and therefore they have some adaptations that make them a bit of a more dangerous animals. So one of the main things that we see when we see a warthog are their tusks. Unfortunately, this guy is just going where he's not supposed to. So the tusks are those white points, those teeth that you can see at the front of his mouth. And he gets the name warthog because of little warts, little skin protrusions that grow from the sides of their from its face, and just allow it to defend itself. If, for example, if there are boys fighting with one another, normally they'll go against each other, and this protects the eye and just the bottom part. So if I were a warthog, I would probably have teeth like this, and then another set of teeth down at the bottom. So they are related to pigs in general. They're in the same family if we were to classify them at a higher level. But this one's over here, I don't know, I want to say that they're a bit tougher because they just have to fight lions and leopards for survival. So I think that gives them a bit of edge. And if you've ever seen The Lion King, I'm sure this is a good reference, then these are Pumbaa. You know, the very fearless pig that hangs around with a, what is it? A meerkat. Mon's a meerkat, not a mongoose. Alright, we're gonna leave this sleepy antelope and feeding warthogs just to see what else is around here. I have high hopes for this afternoon. Let's see. I wonder. This is almost like the battle of the skies. Will the clouds or the sun win? I am hoping for the sun. Scott K, a group of warthog, it's called a sounder. And normally when you see, come, I can do this. Normally when you see warthogs together, it'll either be a group of bachelors, so young males that haven't really had much of a chance to fight in their territorial hierarchy for females, or you'll see a group of females. They're also a matriarchal society, so you'll have a dominant female and then some of her offspring that might just hang around with her for a little while, or obviously you will have a mom and her little piglets that run around. But the common name is a sounder of warthog, which sounds very proper. You know, it gives them a lot of importance, I find. Hopefully more warthog around here. Larissa, you would like to know which species has more endurance, hyena or wild dog? That is a very good question. Hyenas are very well known. Even their sloping backs allow them to have a high endurance. However, I think it is broadly believed that wild dogs have a bit more stamina that allows them to run or just to be active for longer periods of time. They do cover quite a massive amount of ground when they go hunting, and it is partly because they have to move around quite a bit to get to food or to manage to take down a specific animal. And I think their home range is about 100 square kilometers or somewhere around there. And just to be able to imagine to cover all of that in just a few days' time, then they need a lot of stamina and endurance and the ability to do so. Having said so, I'm not too sure if you put them together and you see which one manages to go for longer. My money's on the wild dog, on the wild dog. But hyenas are also a force to be reckoned with. So I don't know. I wouldn't doubt them too much. I reckon they would come to a close second. That's a very interesting question. Thank you. We're gonna see if we can find some feathery friends around here, but let's see. It seems like Byron might have just beat us to it.
Now, we've just managed to find a woodpecker. I'm just trying to have a good look at it. Oh, looked perhaps like a bearded woodpecker. James, do you agree? And look, there we go. There are two birders on this vehicle this afternoon. So that is great. I'll show you a picture of it. Let me just find it for you quickly on my trusty app. But the bearded woodpecker is quite easy to distinguish from the others. Let me get that for you. There we go. Let's see, James, is that alright? There we go, that's fine. And it's got those very prominent black streaks down the throat. Those black markings down the throat with that red head. We could just see that just before it took off there. But it was indeed the bearded woodpecker. That's very nice. You found something else. James says he's found a chin spot batis. Oh, James, just in front of us on the road. No, get the dwarf mongoose, James. No, there we go, everybody. A dwarf mongoose, which I spotted. Oh, look at that, very relaxed. I wonder where the rest are. We know the dwarf mongoose are very gregarious, always in large family groups, so there should be more. But this is so wonderful. Oh, and there it goes. Very, very quick. Now, Tanis, you say if they are dwarf mongoose, are they regular size mongoose? Well, Tanis, I suppose it's all relative. What is a regular size mongoose? I mean, we've got a number of different species of mongoose in this area. Everything from the smallest mongoose, which is the dwarf mongoose, to the white-tailed mongoose, which is the largest mongoose in Africa. Let me see if I can find a picture of that, but that is a rather large mongoose. There we go, let me show you. So this is great. We've got both on the same page. So that is the dwarf mongoose, the small ones which you saw in the road now. They're not very big at all, the dwarf mongoose. Smallest of the mongoose family, and then the white-tailed mongoose, which is much larger, and I'll show you shortly just more or less how big they get. These are solitary and nocturnal. We do see them on occasion in this area, but as I said, solitary, you might find them in pairs, but not as easy to see, or you don't see them as often as the dwarf mongoose or the banded mongoose, which are also very gregarious and in large groups. So the dwarf mongoose you saw is about this big, or probably that length with the tail. Not very big at all, very, very small. Small body. The white-tailed mongoose, if it stood here, is probably about this big. And that's quite large for a mongoose. And I've seen them They've got big, long, bushy tails, so maybe meter and a half in length, more or less. There is that dwarf mongoose back on the road again. It's still by itself. I don't see any others. That's very strange. They are, as I said, always in family groups. The others may be in the long grass somewhere. It's not always too easy to spot them at the moment because of this long grass. They are so cute. I love seeing the dwarf mongoose. Also because they're quite curious. This one's running straight back towards us. I'm just scanning the grass to our left and right to see if there aren't any others. But I don't see or hear any others. Often you can hear them too. They've got a little high-pitched squeak when they're communicating with one another. Something like that. Not quite, but close enough. I think let us continue. That dwarf mongoose looks like he has moved off. So I am still in search of some leopard activity this afternoon. So far nothing just yet, but it is still quite early. I'm just going to try and listen to the radio. Some of the other guides are getting mobile now. They're moving around, so just see what their plans are and if they've got any updates from later in the morning. Okay, well, while I try and listen to some of these other guides and find out or get an update, let's head back to Ali. She's got some antelope she'd like to show you.
Well, the antelope did not want to be shown on camera, just being a bit shy. It was an Impala running very quickly in that direction, so I wonder what it is that, spooked him. At this time of the year is a bit tricky with Impala as well, because the males are starting to go into what's called the rutting season. So most of the Impala, just as May starts coming along, they start rutting, and it's a period of intense fighting where the males are just going to try to just show their dominance and just push out any other males around the area just to be able to have more mating rights. So at this time of the year, they start fighting with one another and they start running across and so on. So it's sometimes they're a bit unpredictable. So they'll start snorting and make something that sounds like an alarm call to us, but really all they're doing is just looking at another Impala and fighting with each other. So I haven't seen anything around. But, well, let's just carry on and see what's happening around here. Might be quite interesting. Let's... Alright. We're in the mystery road. I still have hope for Mbula to be somewhere around here, or just any of the cats. It would be quite nice of them. But just like Byron was saying, sometimes it gets a bit tricky just to find them after the rain, because, well, the rain will wash away any tracks. And we've had nice, slow, steady rain throughout the whole morning, so it makes it just slightly harder to find. But I have hope. Hope dies last, as they say. Also, this area would be perfect for anyone or any leopard or any lion just to try and stalk animals. If you see around on the sides of me, they're just lots of little hiding places, perfect areas for them to crouch down and start looking at the nearby running Impala. Let's just see. I'm going to try and show you just how hard it can be to see tracks. So I'm going to do my best at walking on the road, trying to be quite sneaky as a leopard or a running Impala. Right. Can you see me from here? Can you see my tracks, my very big alley tracks? So if I walk across the road, normally, and I'm not as heavy as some of the animals around here, you see it's virtually impossible to see any of my tracks. And this is one of the sandy roads, and it shouldn't be too hard. If we were lucky, we would be able to see the tracks quite nicely. But if you see, even if I walk here, and I'm trying my best just to put on as much weight as possible on these tracks, it's very easy for anyone, unless you step on the very softer side of the road, just to be able to pick up any tracks. So if you imagine, as we're driving, we're sitting far behind, and there's a bonnet all the way in front of us that we have to try and look past. So that also doesn't help, especially if you're on the shorter side like me. So I actually sit on top of a few blankets just to be able to see what's happening. But I hope this just shows you guys, if I were a leopard, for example, and I chose to walk down the middle of the road, you know, that big stocky walk that male leopards do, you know, go like this, my tracks are pretty much invisible. So I think I'm doing a good job at being a leopard right now. All I need is for one of them to pop out somewhere around there. But yeah, so as you can see, and also depends on different areas. In some areas, the ground, if it's very much like clay, like that clay soil, which is not the one over here, this is more of a sandy soil, then you can see things a lot easier. But a lot of the roads are just made up of sand, or most of the soil that we have around here is then, thankfully, because otherwise this could turn into a very interesting, muddy nightmare. Sorry, let me just plug myself in here. So yes, it just makes the whole process slightly more complicated, but more interesting. It's almost like we are also trying to stock all the different animals. But I hope that helped. I hope that gives you guys a bit of a better idea why sometimes it's hard to find the animals. Depends on where they might have walked. Sometimes it's quite easy if there were a lot of sand, like on the right hand side of the road, where it seems so you can perfectly see the tire marks, then it will be quite easy to find them. But obviously they don't always help us out and do it as easy as we'd like to. Harwood, you'd like to know if animals ever track each other? And my answer would be yes, definitely. A lot of them track each other, but not in the way that we track them. So they wouldn't pick up tracks or paw prints on the road and then just follow each other. A lot of the times what the animals do is that they leave cues, especially if they want to be tracked. So, for example, for all the predators and the females, and I would say pretty much all of the antelope around, once the females start coming into heat, once they're getting ready to mate, then they start leaving cues. Sometimes it's olfactory cues, so they'll leave pheromones once they defecate or they urinate, or sometimes they will leave different marks around, or sometimes they will start calling. Lions and leopards are very good at doing that, especially in the middle of the night where the sound can travel a bit further away just because the air is a bit colder. So they do this in order to be tracked. In the case of the females, then the males roar for all different reasons, but yes, they do track each other, and they are quite successful in doing that. If they weren't, we wouldn't be seeing all the cubs and all the little ones around here. So I think we are the only ones that rely pretty much on sight just to be able to find the animals around. And I've been lucky to work with some incredible trackers that have taught me pretty much everything I know about tracking, and they are able to see even the tiny, broken branch or a little bit of mud that the elephant or the rhino left here, and you see there's a toe of a leopard here. So I think in the tracking world, us humans are probably doing the best effort that we can, but I don't think we are nearly as effective as some of the animals are. Because imagine, sometimes these animals are far apart. If you want to think maybe of animals in the desert, they'll be kilometers and kilometers away, and they just rely on these cues just to be able to track each other and to survive. But also, especially in terms of mating, because boys will always try to follow the girls, if they didn't leave these cues, we wouldn't even have these animals if they couldn't actually track and find each other, because then they would just die quite a sad, lonely death. So thankfully that doesn't happen. They seem to be able to find each other quite right, but also sometimes, now that I think of it, if you think about, for example, lions or leopards, sometimes hyenas can easily track leopards, just going, especially if they've got a kill, because they can use their senses, or they'll be able to identify their smell, and then they'll know by habit that if they follow a certain cue, they might be able to find an animal with a kill, or find, something that they want to steal or eat. So I think it's a pretty solid yes. They can track and find each other. Obviously, not for the same purposes as what we do. And I think a lot of them are just respond to some very basic instincts to either find food or to find the youngsters, or maybe even to mate. I think probably mating takes the biggest portion of that whole thing. Alright, we are going to carry on trying to track. I'm not too sure what anymore, but maybe we'll get lucky. See, there are some tracks on the road. I'm not too sure what they are. Ferg, can you see those tracks there? Not too sure. Just have a quick look, because we don't really want to maybe miss something crucial, as we would normally do. And in this case, we've had a hyena walking down the road. So maybe let's follow the hyena. Maybe the hyena will help us. It'll be quite good. I think hyenas could definitely owe us one. But let's see. Seems like their tracks have gone now. We're gonna carry on trying to figure out where these tracks lead us to, but in the meantime, why don't we go over to Byron just to see how hard it can actually be to spot what he's found.
Well, Ali, it is extremely difficult, and we did manage to find the remains of a carcass, and at the base of this beautiful bush. Have a look at this. Looking around, searching. Is that what we're doing, James? We're searching. A leopard. Yes, a leopard indeed. Now, this looks like it might be Thandi, everyone. I'm not sure yet. You can't see. It's lying in the thick bush. I'm hoping that because it is cooler, these leopards will move around, and I'm sure that Thandi and her cub are both here. There was a fair amount of meat left on the carcass, so I don't think they're quite finished feeding just yet, or at least enough for them to still feed on. So we'll have a look. We'll have a look around this area, and we'll spend some time here, and hopefully get these leopards moving around and being a little bit more active. But I think some nice teamwork finding these leopards, James.
I spotted the kill and the leopard.
So James spotted the kill and the leopard. I just drove him in the right direction.
You did find the tracks going off. Fair enough. We'll call it teamwork.
We'll call it teamwork. Right, yeah. But just look how well camouflaged this leopard is and hidden right in that dense little thicket, in that little bush. Now I wonder where the other leopard is. It's possibly lying in the long grass there somewhere too. We just can't see it. So I will have a little look around here shortly. Let's see if we can find the other leopard. But isn't this a nice surprise? We were hoping to find a leopard. Unfortunately for us, there was a leopard in the area with a kill. Now, this kill, I think, was possibly done yesterday at some point. Maybe with that weather that we had, the rain. And I know a lot of viewers always ask, are the predators more active in the rain, or how does the rain affect them? And I've always said that in my experience, leopards especially, leopards and lions, but leopards especially, often after a storm or a bit of rain or wind, these predators do often have a kill the next day. I think it's because it's easier for them to hunt in weather like that. It's windy, it's rainy, it's making a noise. It's easier for them to stalk and pounce on prey. So I think it does definitely benefit them in some way. A beautiful fish eagle calling in the distance. We're not far from Chitwa Dam, in fact. Calling off down to my right. We can't see them, or I can't see them, but the fish eagle was calling.
Aaron, you've got about 160 to name. Go.
Kelly, so you asked what birds stay for the winter. Well, Kelly, there are a number of species that stay for the winter, and as James said, probably about 160 species that are still around during the winter months. I think it'd probably be easier to name how many leave and how many return. But there are probably about 30 or 40 species in this area that migrate, if not more, probably more. Hang on, there's some movement there. Oh, perhaps this leopard's going back to the kill. I'm going to reposition. Give me a second. I think it is. Let's see. Oh, this will be great. So, Kelly, there are actually too many birds to name that stay here for the winter that don't migrate. There are a number of different species. And the Kruger area alone has over 300 species of birds. Can you see, James? Is that okay? Is that what the whistle was for? Yes. Oh, sorry. Don't worry, I'll just sit still here for a little bit. See how this leopard reacts to us. Looks like... Now, this is definitely Thandi. Just going to sit very still. She's giving a little growl. We're not too close from her, to her, but I'm going to keep my voice down a little bit and sit very still. Don't want to disturb her in any way. Oh, look, they've opened that carcass, and you can see they've been breaking some of those ribs, some of those bones. Now this female leopard has done very, very well, because that is a large Impala ram. Now this, I feel, may be because of the start of the rutting season. We've mentioned it a few times before. The males, when they are rutting, they are so occupied with fighting with one another that they often forget to have a look around for predators. And that is, at this time of year, you find a lot of male Impala fall prey to predators. Is that correct, James?
I would say so, Byron.
No, well, there we go. We agree on something. This is great. Just as I was saying, that hopefully this leopard gets a bit active because it is cool. There is still some meat there. She fortunately got up and started feeding. So this is fantastic. This is really very special. Yes, Diane, it is indeed a huge Impala carcass. So a great meal for these two leopards, for this female and her youngster. Again, I cannot see the young leopard anywhere, the young male. Nicholas, these leopards will indeed feed on some of the bones, not the large bones, but the smaller bones, and you'll hear her cracking through some of those rib bones, and that they will definitely feed on some of the bone. Oh, look at that. Look at those eyes. Keeping a watchful eye out. Now, interesting thing with these leopards, when they are feeding, you'll notice that most of the time, one leopard will feed at a time. Even if this female has got a cub nearby, the young male, she will feed first, and then when she's finished, the young male will possibly come and feed. Very, very seldom do you find leopards feeding together. Kathy, now, this is a question that I think James might be able to help me with. How many cubs has Thandi given birth to? I think it's 2, but I'm not sure. James, do you know?
I think it's 6.
Is it that many? Okay, so James says perhaps 6 cubs that she has given birth to. So she's obviously done quite well to give birth to that many cubs, and she is the daughter of Karula, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So she has done well for herself. I'm going to see if I can perhaps. Not sure if Ali's back on the vehicle yet. To see. You can see how she uses the front teeth to tear at some of the meat, but usually when leopards are feeding, you'll see she'll probably use the side of her mouth. And the reason for that is they've got something known as a carnassial shear at the back of the mouth. The back molars and premolars overlap slightly, and that's also where a lot of the power is in the jaw. And so that allows her to feed and break some of those bones that we were speaking about that they do feed, or that they used to feed. But for the moment, she's in a small little part of the carcass there, so she's using the front teeth and she's able to get to some of that meat. Okay, I'm just going to try and reposition slightly to give some of the other people a chance to view this leopard too. But Ali's back on the vehicle. Let's find out how her search for her leopard is going.
Well, our search, like everything in the bush, has become slightly more adaptable to what we can actually see on the road. So we've found quite a few hyena tracks on the road, some of them roughly heading into the direction of the hyena den. So our rough plan has now changed, unfortunately, because we didn't have all that good signal in that area where Impala was spotted. But don't you worry, the guys that are searching up there that do not depend on signal will let us know if anything changes, and then we will try our very best if he is found later on today. However, I just want to see if we get lucky with the hyenas. It's still going to get us a little bit, it'll take us a little bit of time to get there, but we've got nothing but time on our hands. So it'll be quite cool also if we manage to see one of them walking there. But I think that's a bit more of wishful thinking from my side. Let's see. Right. So you see in sandy patches like this one, like we were discussing earlier, so you see the sand here is a bit different, is not as hard as it was before, or the ones that we've seen, so you can actually see some of the tracks for some of the animals walking down the road. This, however, is a bit of a heavier animal, so it would make a bit more of a track, and what we're looking at are tracks for one of the biggest animals around here. But we'll leave them to carry on, as we're not particularly interested in watching this animal. Okie dokie. Let's see. Also, that would be a perfect spot for any leopard to be in. However, it seems like they are not there. Okay, not anything else around here. That is fine. We will win, Ferg. I'm pretty sure we will. Surprise, surprise. Well, good. The best surprise would be finding them walking down the road. But you know, the power of positive thinking, it'll attract very good things. Also, this weather is funny. Sometimes I'll find that depending on particular animal's personality, they'll go further into the thicker bush, or sometimes leopards, they will just go up a tree just to kind of get out of that draft range and just... Oh, what do we have flying all the way over there? Let's see. Going on to the distance. Are you gonna go and perch on the tree? Yay! You did. Thank you. Now all we have to try and do is to identify it from all the way here. I've got 2 guesses. I just want to have a quick look with my binoculars before I start making up birds. So, I believe that Byron was telling you a bit more about birds that tend to stay around here for the winter. I think this one is a bit out of range, but if I'm not mistaken, we're looking at a snake eagle. And the reason why I suggest a snake eagle is because we can have a proper look at its feet, and then you see it's got bare feet, so the feathers don't go all the way down. So this is not one of the migratory eagle species that we get here for the summer. These friendly guys will pretty much keep us company all throughout the year. Okay, let me just try to find it on the book just so that I can show you guys a bit better, because unfortunately he is not helping all that much by being so far away, although he is quite nice in the sense that he's just stayed there. Okay, eagle. So this particular one, it is funny because they're not considered true eagles, and I always find that a pejorative or a very disrespectful way of calling an eagle. It's like, oh, you're an eagle, but not really. And the reason why they are not considered true eagles, it's just because of those bare legs that we're looking at there. They tend to feed mostly on snake, especially when the little ones are... Oh. Okay, so they tend to feed their youngsters snakes more than anything, and that's why they get the name snake eagles, and why they're considered to be snake eagles, or how they have evolved to actually get this name, is because hunting more snakes, they have the scales on their feet that protect them from snake bites. Well, that's quite nice of you. I think somebody's liking the attention. So yes, as I was saying, they have scales that go all the way down to the talons, to the claws. That's what we call a leopard's very, very sharp looking like feet. And can you imagine, when they come down and hunt and then they take up a snake from the ground, very likely what's the snake instinctively going to do? They're going to turn around and try to bite them. But with these scales that they have that protect the bottom part of their legs, they're actually able to hunt them and just protect themselves against the different snake bites. I think in this case he's also a bit wet, and he just seems to be drying or preening. And then by preening, I mean all of the birds have a gland just towards the part of their tail that secretes or that produces a certain oil, and it's this particular type of oil that manages to keep the feathers clean and smooth, and almost gives them that waxy characteristic. As I'm sure you've seen sometimes some of the birds, when the drops fall on them, then it's almost like they slide down. So after all this rain, I'm sure he's just doing a bit more of that, just to put everything back into order and just make sure that he's fit and ready to start flying again once he dries out entirely. I think he might be even a youngster by the looks of it. Just it's funny when the birds get all their feathers confused. Well, normally with the juvenile and the adults, you can tell the difference by their plumage or their feathers. So the juvenile will have a bit more of a lighter coloration, so they're a bit more brownish at the bottom part, and not as much white, so they don't look as clean, I want to say, as an adult would be. The colors in a lot of the eagles, they look a lot more dull or not as striking as the adult. And part of the reason for it is just because eagles are territorial animals, so when they are flying around and they want to spot if there's an intruder in their area, the first thing that they use is their eyesight. So automatically, by seeing colors that are not as striking or being able to recognize on the fly that is actually a juvenile and not somebody that's contending them for the territory, it makes them a lot well, it does them a favor, because then they're allowed to almost pass by a certain area and not be attacked by some of the territorial ones that are in the area. It's not easy being an eagle either. Gonna fight off a lot of people or a lot of other eagles. What you see? Brown eagle, very hard to see in the background. James, you'd like to know if I have a favorite migratory bird species. I do, actually. I love the woodland kingfishers. I think I have a soft spot for kingfishers, and just waiting for that, striking blue flying in and out. It just becomes one of my favorite moments of the arrival of summer. So you'll have them, everybody, especially among strangers, placing bets and when exactly they're gonna come and who spots the first one. It's almost like the baby impalas, and all the insects are around, so you're just counting down the days, and then automatically when you hear that first chip, that is the call that they make, then summer is definitely here. And I think they are my favorite ones, just because this is not going to sound all that professional maybe, but because when they're doing their displays or advertising their territory or trying to attract females, they almost open up their arms and then they start swinging from one side of the branch to the other, and they almost look like tiny little Batmans, looking around like and then around, and they look into a different branch, and I just find that completely hilarious. So they are definitely my favorite migratory species all around here. We're gonna carry on in our search for some of the four-legged animals that are around here, but in the meantime, let's go see how Thandi is enjoying the kill that she's made.
This leopard is really enjoying her kill. Crunching away on the bones, still no sign of the other leopard, of her young cub. Tamba, is that correct? Yeah, Tamba, no sign of him anywhere just yet. I'm sure he is lying in the long grass somewhere nearby, and hopefully if we are patient we may see him return to the carcass and feed a little bit. Oh, listen, was she calling there? Yeah, see, giving a little. Paul Best, you asked if leopards ever bury portions of their kill. No, I've never heard of that or seen that. I don't think so.
Call me Beth.
Oh, call me.
Get out of the way.
Sorry, Joe. She is contact calling at the moment. So, sorry, call me Beth. No, I've never seen a leopard bury any of their kill. They will hoist it into trees, as we know. That's usually when they are trying to store it in a spot out of reach of other predators. I've never seen them or heard of them burying a kill at all. See, she's calling, so hopefully this young cub does come out, or this young male. Let's just sit and listen for a bit. We might hear some of her calls, her little contact calls that she's giving at the moment. Oh, she's just disappeared there for a second. I'm just going to sit still for a moment. Let's just wait and be patient before we decide to move. Sometimes what can happen is these leopards will move around, and as they're walking through the long grass, they might find each other and return back to the kill. So let's just sit and watch her for a moment. See, perhaps we can hear some of the movement. I'm going to keep a close eye. Ah, there we go. There he is. He's just walked through from right to left. Okay, hold on a second. So he's moved behind us, or behind this little thicket in front of us, at the base of that apple leaf. But I'm just going to give it another minute. Let's just wait a minute or so, and then we'll decide where to move, because they are walking around. That's fantastic. So both leopards are here, which is great. It seems as if he was lying to the back behind that termite mound off to the right. He was lying behind there somewhere. And leopards will often do that. They'll move away from a carcass, lie down in an area, a little spot that they feel safe. So, Dina, no, I can't see any hyena tracks, and if there were any hyena tracks, the likelihood of this kill still being are very, very slim, because what would happen is the hyena would definitely steal this carcass from this leopard. If it was one hyena, perhaps not. I have seen leopards, and even female leopards, stand off to a single hyena and keep them away, but a big hyena will be able to chase a leopard off quite easily and steal the kill. So this leopard's done well in keeping this kill. It's well hidden right down in this thicket, and at the moment, with all that rain that we had, that moisture also masks the scent, and that long grass doesn't allow the scent of their carcass to travel too far, so that's why the hyena probably haven't found it yet. But fortunately, it looks like they've finished most of it. Okay. You know what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move and see if we can't get a view of these two leopards together. I'm just trying to see where that other vehicle is moving first. Alright, and speaking about hyena, Ali's on her way to the den. Let's see how close she is.
We're not too far away from the hyena den, so hopefully we'll have some spotted little cubs of our own over there. Here's to hoping. It'll be quite nice to see them, more tracks on the road. So I am feeling quite hopeful that the little ones will enjoy just running around in this weather. It seems like beautiful young big-eared Tamba is out and about, which is always good. Seems like Thandi has been quite successful all around that area, just making sure she can be a good mother and providing for her cub. I think I've actually only seen Thandi twice, and the hyena cubs, maybe I haven't actually seen them now that I think about it. I've just seen them on videos. Funny enough, I haven't properly met them yet, so I'm really hoping that I'll be able to see at least the tail of one. I'm not asking for much. I believe I met... well, just before we carry on, sorry, I haven't seen one of these guys in quite a while. And we've got a black-bellied bustard over there running around. Can you see him there on the ground? So these particular birds are well known because of their impressive mating display, or not a mating display, the way they try to attract the females. So they'll fly all the way up into the air, and then pretty much it's almost like they cartwheel and they let themselves fall down, and just before they're about to hit the ground, then they'll open the wings and fly away. Also quite noisy things. Oh, what a nice surprise. Don't you go in that other direction, you'll get eaten by a hyena. Oh my. Seems like somebody just actually beat us to the hyena den. Let's just see. I just want to find out that we don't disturb the sighting. Is there any station currently checking the MPC Kaya? A strong feeling that they might be. Is there any station currently checking the MPC Kaya? Okay, copy. Alright, so there is somebody that managed to get in ahead of us just about 2 seconds before we got in there, but it seems like he hasn't had any luck yet. So I'm not gonna go in there because obviously the hyena den is still quite a sensitive thing, and I know hyenas are quite hardy animals, but I would prefer not to go in there when somebody else is checking and moving around and making a lot of noise. Because if they're not there, we're just gonna make sure that they don't come out. So rather, let's just give them a bit of space, and then we'll hopefully know if they're around. I'm sure at least he'll be decent enough to let us know if the hyenas are there, and we'll just stick around the area. While we patiently await for news on the hyena den, why don't we go and see a beautiful sight at another termite mound?
Brilliant parking there, Brian. Thank you.
I've just repositioned for a wonderful shot of the leopard on the termite mound. You can see the tail off to the left. There we go. As you crossed to us, he went and moved behind the termite mound. Terribly sorry about that, but he is moving around. This is the young male, Tamba. So I'm just going to sit here again. And some of you might be thinking, please move, but these leopards are moving around a lot. So I don't want to move the vehicle too much because we will disturb them. And he is moving up and down. If he doesn't in the next few minutes, I will definitely drive around to the other side. Thandi is directly in front of me. She is in the long grass, just off probably 5 or 6 meters from the vehicle. You might be able to see her. There we go. I have a very good cameraman with me this afternoon.
Sure do. Exceptional fellow.
An exceptional fellow, yes. Ricky, leopards and jaguars are indeed related. They are both part of the Panthera genus, so they are very closely related, in fact. So they roar, like the leopards roar, lions roar, jaguars roar. They give off certain sound, but their characteristics are very similar, and they are very closely related. So jaguars and leopards indeed are closely related and form part of the genus Panthera. So in terms of taxonomy, if you go right into the naming of animals, that's basically what taxonomy is. They are similar all the way right down up until species, and that's the last part of the naming of animals. So for example, the leopard is Panthera pardus, and a jaguar is Panthera, I'm not sure. Ansia. There we go. Ansia. There we go. Thank you, James. Panthera ansia. So there we go. They are very, very closely related. But a jaguar is much larger than a leopard. I have been told, and I have not yet seen a jaguar, unfortunately, but I've been told a big male jaguar is the size of a fully grown lioness. Oh, that is very big. Okay, I'm going to reposition. Let's see if we can get a nice view of Tamba there quickly while he is out on that termite mound. Thandi's still lying in the long grass. James is apologizing for not turning the ambient sound down. James, please be better. Hang on, I think we're going to get a lovely view of Tamba on the termite mound. Just hold on a second, James. I'll tell you when you can turn the camera. You may now turn the camera, James, to the left, please. There we go, look at that. With a vehicle on approach. That's a lovely view of Tamba. Such a wonderful young leopard, quite relaxed. Just trying to signal to the others where these leopards are. And it's always wonderful, as I was saying, this cool weather is so great to view predators because they generally do lie out in the open. They don't need the shelter of the shade, so it gives us a much better view of them. Rachel, that's an interesting question. You said, why is the clouded leopard not part of the Panthera genus? Rachel, I'm not too sure. I would assume it's got something to do with the probably the physical structure of that clouded leopard. If I'm not mistaken, it's much smaller than any of the other leopards. But I don't know. I don't know for sure. James, do you have any ideas or any guesses?
I don't. Can you hear me?
Can you hear James?
I can hear myself. Hello? Hello. Yes.
I affirm we can hear you, James.
The clouded leopard, I think, does not have the characteristic hyoid apparatus that allows it to go no?
To roar. Yes.
Roar.
That's the hyoid, yeah.
Whereas the snow leopard, I think, does. And the clouded leopard, yes, like you say, is more an example of convergent evolution. So where a cat has developed a similar strategy, so there's spots to live in a forested environment, but isn't necessarily related to the other spotted cats. Like a cheetah and a leopard.
Like a cheetah and a leopard, yeah. And also a cheetah does not have that hyoid apparatus,
No,
I believe.
Totally different genus.
Completely different genus, yeah. But the spots for camouflage. Ooh. Now,
Tiger.
well, we've been speaking about spots for camouflage on big cats. Now, Ali says she's got something that's camouflaged with stripes. Let's have a look if it's a tiger.
Stripy camouflage it is. No, it is not a tiger. A tiger over here would be quite a sight. A very, very strange one and of a very confused tiger. But no, we found the best stripes that we have around this area, a zebra. Or rather, a harem of zebra. A dazzle of zebra also. That's my favorite common name of zebras, just because it reflects just how pretty they can be. They are, however, not being all that friendly. They're just hiding behind the bushes over there. Unfortunately, guys, the hyenas were not out at the hyena den, so we had to carry on. I'm sure the mothers are being very good mothers and just making sure all the youngsters are hiding inside of the den rather than being outside where it's cold. I think there might be a youngster moving around. I'm just going to try to go back a little bit, see if maybe we manage to have a bit of a closer look. Hopefully I won't knock Ferg out of the car in the process. Always hope. Yes, if you fall, then it's not going to be funny. Maybe somewhere around there we can see a stripy bum. I believe you guys were asking about the difference between jaguars and leopards. Jaguars are slightly bigger than leopards. I have only seen signs for them in the wild. I have actually never seen a wild jaguar. I've seen pumas and ocelots, but never a jaguar. Very, very elusive creature. Unfortunately, in Venezuela, I think they were hunted a bit too much because there weren't too many rules in place as to what to do. Fortunately, a few years ago, but it seems like the jaguar population, according to some of the last conversations I've had with some of the researchers and the people that live in the further or in the central part of where I come from, they've just been saying that it seems that things are going better for them. I have only seen them in captivity, and they are definitely much bigger than leopards. Where leopards are a bit slender and just a bit more elegant. I want to say elegant, maybe that's the right word for them. Jaguars are a bit stockier, bigger heads. They just look more bulky in general. So, you know, it's almost, if I can make a comparison, a leopard is a leopard, and a jaguar is more like a pit bull type of leopard, you know, so that shorter legs, stockier look, but just as beautiful as the leopards that we get around here. Right, but going back to the stripes and the camouflage, these stripes that we see on the zebra have been the source of so much debate over so many years. I think every year there's a new study, because we are so puzzled by why do zebras have stripes? Why, out of all the animals around here, why are they so easy to see for us, black and white in the middle of the bush? Because if you see for us, it's very, very simple to find the white color in there. So there are a couple of theories about it. Some people tend to think that it's because of camouflage, and some people tend to think, let me just go back, see if we can see them. Sorry. So some studies tend to suggest that they have stripes just because of forward. Yes, sir. Seems like Ferg here has meant. Okay, good. We have managed to find a gap in between the bushes. So yes, as I was saying, some researchers believe it's because of temperature, that it allows them to cool down, and then some other ones believe it's just a way of preventing fly, especially the tsetse flies, from landing on them. Jesse, we can appreciate their mane now, and you'd like to know why their mane stands up straight and the one of wild horses doesn't. I could put a theory forward, and I would just like to say that maybe it's because their mane is actually shorter. As far as I know, wild horses, and I could be mistaken here, so please feel free to let me know if this is not the case for wild horses, as I'm not too familiar with them. I believe part of the reason it's because their hair is shorter. So you see, it's not as long as the mane that sometimes the horses get, so it'll be easier. It's just when you imagine the hair of girls and boys. So boys that cut their hair military style, they have spiky hair that grows up, whereas us girls, as soon as we start getting hair that's longer, it starts to fall on the sides. That would be my best guess as to why. I do know, however, that to look at the condition of a zebra, the first place you want to look at is their mane. Not their beautiful bottom. Why the mane? Normally they say that when the zebras are not in great condition, then their mane tends to flop down on the side. So if you ever see a zebra with a mane that's not standing up straight, then you know that there's something that's potentially wrong with them. I know they tend to look always quite healthy, because they tend to look quite fat and full and happy. However, this is not the case. This is merely, it's almost like an optical illusion. Because of the way that they digest the food, it goes through a fermentation process. And obviously fermentation produces a lot of gas, and gas makes them look very bloated. So they appear to have very rounded stomachs and very full stomachs, but a lot of the times they're just full of gas and air that they, you know, gracefully let out every now and again. I'm not too sure how we're going to get a closer look at this one. It's just becoming a bit tricky. But if you see, it's pretty much nearly impossible to see them. So I was reading recently about the latest study about why the zebras have stripe. It seems like what I thought was a more solid theory, that it's because of camouflage, because the predators can only see in shades of gray and black and white, so they don't see in color as we do. So imagine if they were looking at the zebras there, you wouldn't really know if they were standing behind the bush and the predator was here where we were. It just appears as it's part of the bush. Another theory that's very typical in the camouflage of zebras is that when they stand next to one another, you almost get confused. So it's hard to gauge the difference or the where they might be going. Are these guys moving? No, they're not. Where they might be moving around, so it's harder for the predator to actually get to them. But funny enough, there was one study that I read recently that suggested this is not at all the case, that they did a massive study with animals that are striped, animals that are not striped, and they're trying to find out what the difference is. Oh, beautiful boy. Oh, bit of an itch there. And nowadays, the winning theory is that they have stripes to prevent animals, or smaller parasites rather, like the tsetse fly, and all of the flies in general, from landing on them. Because apparently studies have been done, and the stripes prevent, or the flies don't really like landing on stripy surfaces, which is quite odd. I imagine if maybe something about the stripes and all their eyes just confuses them. I do know, however, they are one of my favorite animals to photograph in the bush. I mean, those stripes are just precious, and they're all different, and they're all funny looking, and especially when they're all standing together. It's quite wonderful to see. Where are you off to? I have a feeling we might be looking at a group of males. So, a bachelor group. Just like with a lot of the antelope around this area, the young males tend to stay in groups for a little while, just until they become older and stronger to be able to start getting all the females by themselves. But in the meantime, obviously, the more the better, because they'll be able to look out after each other and just alarm each other in terms of the possible predators that are around the area. I just don't know if we're going to be able to carry on looking at this zebra. They seem to be slightly unfriendly. So we're going to carry on and see if maybe if we take one last drive in front, if we'll be able to see them. If not, we'll just leave them to their... I would say this is almost like an afternoon snack. And then we'll carry on, see what else we can find along the way. There were some kudu earlier on as well. So hopefully we'll be able to see that pretty girl that was around here too. I think it was a girl. I don't remember seeing any horns. Ah, stop. Okay, sorry, I've just been... Not gonna last for long, Ferg, you say? Well, it just proves how great their camouflage is. Cedar Point, you'd like to know what made me come and guide in South Africa? I think it was just a series of events. I don't know if it's, some people would call it fate, some people would call it just an accident. But I was working in a wildlife rehabilitation center, so I was doing all the husbandry and looking at that side of animal care and conservation. And there was an opportunity. There was one of the lodges further south in the Savisan that had a training school. So when I heard about the opportunity of becoming a guide, because a lot of my friends were guides, and then they would always, and I would always feel so nerdy. They would always be like, "Oh, you don't know this tree, or you don't know this," and I was like, "No, I want to know this, and I want to know what this tree is, and I want to know what this is." And it's just like this passion. I can't explain it. It's always been in there, that I've always wanted to know more and more about the African wilderness. So when I found out that the best opportunity, or the best way for me to do that, was through guiding, that was me done. I knew that that was the way forward, and I fought really, really hard, or not, not physically, but I had to learn to be better, because it's not easy. Imagine being a girl and a foreigner in this industry. But I've met some wonderful people that have helped me along the way. All of them, I have to say, very welcoming, and just because it's the passion for the people that love this job and that enjoy being out there is just something that blurs any nationality or anything else around. So I think that to me was it. Not only being able to see these animals that I've always dreamt of seeing and fell in love with, but also to be able to share it with people that had the same passion of just going. And it doesn't matter if you get wet, doesn't matter if you get a branch to the face by following a leopard. The important thing is just being out there and just enjoying the company of this animals. And then the more I started guiding, the more I realized that I loved it, because it was a good way of making people care. In the sense, like, I'm a firm believer that if you show people why an animal is special, or why an area is special, and if you make them feel it, then they'll go back home and they'll try to do something for the environment and just help preserve this wonderful planet that we have. So I don't know, it was just a series of things that just, once I got into it, just got me more and more hooked, and ever since I cannot think of anything else I'd rather do. This is the way of life. I mean, this is my office, so pretty cool, isn't it? Even though the zebras are, not being very friendly clients at the moment. Alrighty. Right, let's see if maybe we find the kudu, and the kudu will be slightly friendlier to us. She was busy feeding around here. I think she's gone too. Nope, I think they are done.